Greetings and salutations. Today we will be covering the enigmatic case of Michelle Vanek. Now, this story begins amidst the breathtaking backdrop of the mysterious Mount of the Holy Cross in Colorado, a majestic yet treacherous stretch of terrain. Vanek, a 35-year-old wife and mother of 4, embarked on an ambitious trek alongside a family friend in the pursuit of conquering her first 14er on September 24, 2005. Little did she know that this expedition would be etched in the annals of intrigue and mystery. For anybody who doesn't know, a 14er is any mountain that exceeds 14,000 feet above sea level. Climbing one is a personal goal of mine, so personally I could see the allure of attempting to conquer this mountain. Now things took an unfortunate turn when Vanek and her companion chose to separate near the summit, completely disregarding the buddy system, which personally I think you should always follow whenever you're hiking, mountain climbing, camping, or what have you. This was due to exhaustion causing her to halt her ascent. Then she would agree with her seasoned hiking companion that she would wait on the trail while he pursued the summit alone, and eventually reconnected with her. Unfortunately, this parting marked the last known interaction anybody would have with Michelle Vanek. Subsequent efforts to find her, or any trace of her, would prove futile. Despite the meticulous 8-day search involving over 800 volunteers scouring the terrain by foot and by air, it really appeared like the landscape was barren, completely without a trace of the woman. No footprints, no clothing remains, no hiking gear, no anything really. It's like the mountains just swallowed her up. Years would turn into unending, unyielding, unresponsive silence. That is until a glimmer of hope appeared on October 2022, when a hiker and his son ended up finding a worn-out boot nestled amidst a desolate boulder field in the northern vicinity of the Mount of the Holy Cross. Recognizing the significance, they would document their finding and they would preserve the site, notifying the Vail Mountain Rescue Group. Eventually, forensic scrutiny and testing would lead to them finding out that the boot belonged to none other than Michelle Vanek. And while this discovery does give them hope, unfortunately, the searchers have only found this single breadcrumb, leaving the mystery of where Michelle Vanek is just as poignant as when she disappeared in 2005. Scott Beebe, president of the board of the Vail Mountain Rescue Group, theorizes that Vanek might have accidentally gone down something that wasn't the trail but appeared to be such. She took a wrong turn, and then she just became lost in the untamed wilderness. Then the temperatures dropped to the low 20s and, well, she took the long nap. In this saga, the solitary boot that was discovered after almost 2 decades served as a poignant reminder of a missing woman, and it reaffirmed a glimpse of hope within many that they might find some resolution to the case of the missing hiker by the name of Michelle Vanek, who was lost in the rugged wilderness of Mount of the Holy Cross. To go into further detail, on September 24th, 2005, Michelle, an accomplished marathon runner and triathlete, embarked on a challenging venture with her companion, Eric Sawyer. Their goal was to conquer the daunting heights of Mount of the Holy Cross, one amongst the revered Colorado 14ers. This marked Michelle's inaugural attempt at scaling such an altitudinous peak, while Eric was a seasoned mountaineer and boasted a history of conquering 38 14ers in the past. Their preparation for this expedition would span a little bit over a year, involving meticulous training and specific equipment procured from Gart Sports and Costco. Their journey started at 6:30 a.m. from the Half Moon campgrounds, but unexpectedly they had to divert their path, and this led them into the Halo route instead of their intended North Ridge Trail. Unknown to the two of them, this route was meant for elite hikers and was still listed under the Park Service's evaluation, due to it being a formidable challenge which would extend many expeditions. As their hike went on, things would get harder and harder, as the pair realized that Eric had unintentionally left behind their food and his water purifier. By 1:15 p.m., Michelle had exhausted her water supply, compounding the issues that they would face. Lagging behind due to the unfamiliarity with the high altitude hiking that they were doing, Michelle found herself consistently trailing Eric by around 60 feet, making it necessary for him to constantly help her, either by going back for her or waiting for her. Approximately 400 yards from the summit, Michelle was completely exhausted and reached a pivotal juncture, opting to descend towards the East Cross Creek Trail or wait for Eric's return while he kept going onto the summit by himself. Breaking the buddy system completely, she bid her companion farewell in an area covered with giant boulders. Eric would reach the summit at 1:42 p.m., briefly conversing with fellow hikers before going back. He would state that he was concerned about having left Michelle alone for such an extended period of time. However, when he got back to the boulder field, Michelle had vanished. Him calling her name only got his own voice back to him as echoes. And as he panicked looking for any trace of his missing friend, he found nothing. An immediate search operation would unfold with over 700 individuals, tracking dogs, and a myriad of other resources all piling up, combing through this incredibly difficult and rugged terrain. Yet in the massive expanse of the Cross Creek drainage and its treacherous ridgeline, they found no clues, despite the discovery of a duffel bag containing a firearm, along with suspicious sightings and encounters with a tent dweller named Peter Marin. There was nothing really to be found of the woman. Authorities' prevailing belief is that Michelle accidentally died, pointing to potential factors such as altitude sickness, her aggravated dehydration, and her not being experienced in mountaineering. With all the speculation circling about what would have happened, they were really just guessing at the truth, drawing at straws. And throughout this whole case, the only clue they have gotten was her sorrel ascetic boot, and it had a tattered leather exterior and a worn black rubber sole. That's all they got, and it was unearthed by a father-son duo in the seldom treaded northern reaches of Mount of the Holy Cross. Eventually, through forensic scrutiny, they would find that it was one of the two worn by Michelle during her ill-fated expedition. The president of the Vail Mountain Rescue Group, Scott Bebby, was the one to voice the somber discovery, and the narrative was reshaped with this new evidence. The belief now was that Michelle's fate was a tragic accident, potentially dispelling all prior assumptions and rumors, with the theory that a mere 10 minutes and the 100 feet stood as harbingers of her untimely fate. In this heart-wrenching account, the discovery of the lone boot at least gives some amount of clarity. For years, the narrative of what actually happened to Michelle Vanek has hung in the air, clues taking us tantalizingly close to being able to provide the family with closure. However, other than the boot, the clues that have been found have been proven to be little more than futile misidentifications. One said clue was the discovery of a jawbone. However, after DNA testing and dental record analysis, we find out that rather than the jawbone of a human being, what was found was that of a deer. Now onto the theories, which include differing amounts of conjecture in each of them. The first one, and one of the more likely and down-to-earth theories, is that Sawyer had a hand in Vanek's death. The evidence for this comes from assertions of somebody as experienced as him having completed 38 14ers simply forgetting their food, water, map, and rescue beacons, seeming strangely out of character. Also adding the fact that for a hike that was planned for a year and a half, as stated in Sawyer's story, them ending up on a wrong trail, specifically a trail where someone could disappear that is less traveled, seems highly suspect, and that 60 feet in hiking terms would not be sufficiently far enough to completely lose track of a climbing partner, meaning that there would be little reason for Vanek to panic and just walk away into oblivion. Now, in part, the theory surrounding Sawyer being involved in her death in some iterations includes a potential romantic angle that may or may not seem unlikely. The next theory, however, focuses on a sinister stranger that two rescuers came across and found suspicious due to him exhibiting rather strange behavior, including refusing to speak and hiding behind a tree in order to disguise his face. The searchers would also report that he scurried away in a tizzy. Other searchers eventually encountered a tent with a light on it, but the person inside refused to either respond to them or come out. Eventually the man would give up his name and identification as stated above. There was also a shotgun recovered in a duffel bag near Cross Creek Trail. Also on the 28th, a dog search team would come across blood spots in the snow, the origin of which remain undetermined, but many link to this individual, and others further link to Michelle Vanek. The next theory is based on this case resembling those of the missing 411 cases, which are covered by David Paul Dees to an incredible extent, focusing on the strange disappearances that happen in American national parks, many of which are unexplained and have individuals just vanish into what appears to be thin air, with some of them eventually returning and others only leaving bits and pieces of garments. And within this link, there are those who believe that she could have been abducted by aliens, unlikely as that is. However, the most likely theory is the one proposed by the search and rescue teams, that she just got lost on a trail, which she accidentally mistook, leading to her eventual end through either dehydration or exposure. In the realm of riddles and remembrances, the convoluted chronicle of Michelle Vanek's vanishing ventures across the valleys and vistas, vividly presenting a puzzle poised on the precipice of a precipitous peak, where seekers of silent secrets and storied searchers seek to unveil an account based on the echoes of other enigmas, shedding light on the forlorn fate of Michelle Vanek and her disappearance amongst the mountain's majestic might throughout the tumultuous trails and tempestuous turns. The narrative of this disappearance navigates the nuance of a journey forged in fleeting footsteps and fervent yearnings. Alas, in the lingering lullabies of the untamed terrain, a solitary boot emerged as a silent sentinel, a solemn symbol of the spectacular solace sought in the soaring slopes of Mount of the Holy Cross. Unfortunately, it seems that this mystery meanders through a maze of memory, weaving whispers of what might have been in the wistful winds that wend their way through the wilderness. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.